Okay, I'm recording. Rick Warren, thanks for taking the time.
Michael Isaac, thank you. Thank you for doing the interview. I'm glad to be here.
Thanks. So yeah, would you mind saying a little bit about your background, where you're from, um, how a little bit about your life and how you found the Urantia book to start off?
Yeah, I was in '86. I was out on the West Coast and fell in love with a woman who led me to a town where we rented a little apartment for a couple of weeks. And it was um, furnished and everything. And on the bookshelf was the Urantia book. And I took it down and opened it up, and I had a spiritual experience right there. I said, this is what I've been looking for, I'd read all the books, Be Here Now, and right up till the 80s, I'd been reading and looking for truth. And finally I stumbled upon it, and I wish I knew where she was now, but I lost track of her and kept the Urantia book. But I guess it was in 2016, I started thinking about writing a novel or a story of our next life. And I posted a chapter a day on the forum, the association's forum, and I had people read it and tell me what they thought about it. And it was sort of like the same way that the Urantia book came through. And after I got 21 chapters, I published it, and that was my first novel. It was Resurrection Hall. And that book's still selling, a copy or two a day. And I'm thinking about getting an audio version. And but that led me to think, well, I can write. Apparently, other people seem to think I can. So I went ahead and decided that I was going to try to write 7 novels. So I got advice from a longtime Urantia book reader about my next book, and she told me that I should not use the word Urantia. I should put the teachings in there, but not refer to the revelation. So I did that, and that book was called Battlefield Guardians, and it was semi-autobiographical of my experience in Vietnam. And after that, I decided to write about Adam and Eve, and that book was published last year. James Woodward is my chief editor, and he helped me improve a lot of what I didn't know in the first book. And that book is probably the most popular one so far. Everybody seems to want to know what really happened in the gardens, and it's called The Gardens of Eden, Life and Times of Adam and Eve. And now I'm working on a Melchizedek novel that should be out sometime this year. And the next one that I've got about half written is about the planetary prince and his regime, and the 7th book is going to be about either the Midwayers or the angels. So I'm single. I'm the only one left standing in my family. My mom, dad, sister, even my daughter has already graduated to Mansonia. And I live alone and just get into writing. I truly enjoy it.
Wow, that's amazing. Sorry to hear about your daughter. That must be, can't imagine outliving one's child.
Hope it doesn't happen to you.
I know, really. So when you mentioned that the Gardens of Eden seems like it's the most popular so far, do sometimes people discover the Urantia book through your book, have you found, or have people ever told you that they weren't Urantia book readers and then they took an interest because they discovered your book?
Both. Yeah.
And then maybe some people read your book and never take an interest in the Urantia book, but learn about some of the ideas.
Could be. Not in contact with all my readers.
Yeah, yeah. But do you ever get contacted from time to time?
Oh yeah, I'm in email contact with a fellow in Africa, or two people in Africa who are interested. And
Wow. Do you have like a ritual to your writing process, like that you start really early in the morning, or a way to kind of not get writer's block?
I do write early in the morning. That seems to be when I'm the freshest, and I don't write well when I'm tired in the evening. But it's sporadic throughout the day. Just when the mood comes and I feel like the idea hits me, that what comes next, that's usually what inspired me.
Wow.
And worship is an interesting aspect of that too. I believe that's the source of a lot of creativity.
Uh-huh. So do you sometimes sit in silence and cultivate a worshipful state and then get inspiration?
Yeah, I try to at least a couple of times a day. Now that I'm retired, I can do that with relaxation and flexibility.
Yeah. What was your job before you retired?
I ran a business, home repairs, and I just hired myself out.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Um, so it was an interesting point you made about that someone had advised you not to put the word Urantia in your second book, but I assume you decided that you weren't going to go that route anymore, that you weren't going to sort of hide the Urantia connection in your writing anymore?
That's right. So now at the end of my books, there's an author note that has a link to Urantia Foundation's copy, and I also add asterisks in the text where I use a direct quote.
Yeah, it's kind of like with J.J. Benitez, that it's good that he didn't that he did acknowledge in some of his books, I didn't get all these information myself, but I guess this woman who advised, or this friend of yours who advised you to not talk about the Urantia book, thought that maybe you could reach a wider audience, but I guess the downside is then it's kind of like you're hiding the source of inspiration. It's a difficult balance, maybe.
Indeed. Well, the Resurrection Hall, the first book, was written for Urantia Book readers. I didn't make any bones about that. But in the third and fourth book, The Gardens and Melchizedek and all the others, readers may get all the way to the end before they discover that this is paraphrasing the Urantia book a lot. And the story comes from there.
Yeah. That's great. What a great, I envy your situation. It seems like and I'm grateful for your, your creativity and your dedication to keeping this up. I think it's gonna.
It's something to do.
Yeah. Wow. And that you discovered writing, you hadn't been a writer early in life, and then you just kind of got into it, and then you kind of cultivate your skill as you work with it, right?
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. About 30 years ago, when I came back home to Texas, I prayed and said, what am I supposed to do? And I got one word: write. It took me 25 years to figure out that I was going to write books, but I wrote 1 million emails before that. I was part of the Urantia Association, and I took a term. Well, you followed me as dissemination chair, I think.
Yeah, you've written a lot of emails. Wow.
That was practice.
Well, really great talking. Why don't we continue talking, but maybe we could end this recording so that we have it sort of separate.
Sure.
Thanks a lot, Rick.